This is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior leaders, and C-suite executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number one. In a few sentences, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Kathy Duvall, and I am currently the president and CEO at San Francisco Fire Credit Union.
Oh my goodness, I can imagine the credit union has been pretty involved with the pandemic this last year, huh?
Yeah,
Helping the community.
yes, we've definitely had our hands full both with individual consumers as well as small businesses and helping them out through this whole pandemic.
Well, thank you so much for your service in that way, because I know our local banks and our community banks here have been doing a big job with that in San Diego.
Great.
So, what is the best thing about leading people through change, would you say?
For me, I think I get the most enjoyment out of setting a vision, creating excitement, and then most importantly, providing opportunity for my team to develop or finding leaders that you didn't, that will give them stretch assignments so they can really expand their development and perhaps prove to themselves some things that they've never seen before. And that is as exciting to me as reaching our end goal of a particular project and seeing the success and the fruits of the labors from that.
I love that because it always reminds me of, don't we often wish we could see ourselves through somebody else's eyes?
Mhm.
The potential that we see in other people, you wish they could have for themselves. And so I love how you say that, the idea is to kind of guide them through that process and see the possibilities of who they can become.
That's right. Absolutely.
So,
Very rewarding.
so beautiful. So as you think about that, then what piece of advice would you give to other leaders about implementing change?
I think for me, it's starting off with just pausing and reflecting and recognizing that that a certain portion of the population will be open and open to change. And then a certain portion will not be. They're going to resist it. I think that's just human nature. And even some of those say that they're open to it, still are afraid. That I fall into that category. There are times where, right? I say, oh, I'm open, but I have angst and anxiety over that. So I think recognizing that first while you go into it and being honest about it. And then make sure as you're going through the change that you start with purpose and that you are purpose driven and you're constantly reminding everybody involved the purpose, the why behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
Communicate endlessly, the good, the bad, the ugly, not just what you think they need to do for the next step. For me, it's what can we learn from some of the ugliness, perhaps that you've engaged in throughout the process. And then, as I mentioned earlier, invest in your people. And then at the end of the day, I like to use this term. I learned this from a prior leader of mine that used the terminology graciously relentless. Just persist, 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 and stay steady on the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish.
Oh, you made my heart swell thinking
Oh,
about that. Again, because you think about that, and we always work on the urgent whack-a-mole stuff, but it's the important stuff that goes by the wayside. And as I hear you talk about that, I really hear you saying you're putting those things first as that priority, and then just relentlessly being committed to that purpose.
yeah, it's too easy to go off the rails if you worry about all the little things. And I think, again, just being transparent about what you can share as much as possible really helps people
Yeah.
feel like they belong.
Well, they say the number one fear is the fear of the unknown. And
Right.
you can imagine in change, that's what really comes up for a lot of people is they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes we know what we're going to lose and we're afraid of that, but we don't actually think about all the things we might gain.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that resistance come from that you talk about.
I tend to be a leader that uses humor a lot as well. And I think it's good to share my fears, have laughter about it, share some funny moments if I have them with the team, because I think it makes it more real and they realize, okay, the leader is experiencing this, I'm not so out of, left field that I am
That's
having
right.
similar type fears.
I love that. It's interesting over this last year, I've been hearing from a lot of clients and a lot of other leaders that they've been struggling with this whole remote leadership thing, that the benefit of the walk by leadership or catching people at the water cooler or overhearing them on a phone call just isn't the way that it is anymore. I'm
Mhm.
curious, were you struggling with that at all? And did you identify any tips that you could put in place to overcome that?
I would say absolutely I've struggled. I definitely get a lot of energy from people and the human connection. Thank God for technology. As good as Zoom is, it's still not, I don't know, just being live. However, struggled at first, but it's really, once I finally gave into it, and recognize, try to take advantage of what technology does offer. I think the most important thing for me is just being more deliberate in my touch bases with employees. So we'd have a regular, one-on-one touch
Yeah.
base, but also trying to be more proactive and reaching out when they weren't expected, just really checking in. How are you doing? How you feeling? What's going on in your life? Those type of things help bring some of that human element back into it. And just recognizing that the old water cooler moments, I think you can reach those in similar matters, but they're going to feel differently. And we just need to recognize that. So, I still struggle with it. We're spent a lot of time talking about that at work post-pandemic. What does this look like if more people continue to work from home? So it's definitely a continual learning moment for all of us.
Amen to that. Thank goodness Kaizen is a thing that we're all supposed to aspire to.
Yeah. So true.
That's great. So what other daily practice is really important to you as a leader? What's that non-negotiable?
For me, it's showing up to work every day with energy, getting my rest, right? Showing up with energy, being available, right?
Both heart
Listening.
space and mind space,
That's right.
right?
All of it, particularly in the remote. And I would lie if I said I haven't experienced pandemic fatigue, because I have. And I think it's okay to recognize that, but being honest with it, recognizing it, and working through that. So for me right now in this pandemic world, that's something I think about consciously every day.
That's beautiful. I think it's so important. And again, I think the wellness is not just an absence of disease, right? It's
Right.
that whole body wellness, mind, body, spiritual. And we got to answer to that right now. So then magic question number 6 for you. What other successful business leaders like yourself, Kathy, should be on the show? In other words, who else should we be paying attention to out there?
Well, I've been in the credit union space for a long time. So probably, I'm going to pull from a lot of my colleagues. I have some amazing people that I work with in industry. And there are other CEOs. I work with a woman called Erin Mendez. She's CEO at Patelco Credit Union in the East Bay. She's just a fantastic leader. I actually used her as a mentor and coach when I became a CEO. I've only been a CEO for 4 years. This is my first CEO job. So she was a big, big help to me. And then I have some people that I've actually have worked for me that I admire. And one gentleman, his name is Mike Kwama, and he's currently a CFO at a credit union here in the Bay Area as well. So those are 2 people that come to mind most immediately.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? I think you might be the first person, Kathy, to ever recommend somebody that actually reported to them from that perspective. I've had second grade teachers, I've had parents and things like that, and certainly other colleagues. But I love the way that you actually honored somebody that reported to you. I think that that's a beautiful nod.
Oh, well, thank you. I have learned so much from the people that I work with or work for. I like to say work with, but
me too.
Technically on an org chart, they report up, but wow, you know what I mean? It's always, you surround yourself with people much smarter than you, right?
Well, and that's the whole purpose of this question, is to really challenge the audience to think about, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with and where are you getting influence from? And, you couldn't have answered it better than the way that you did. So I just think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's been an absolute delight having you on the show. I do hope you come and join us again for a future session. But if somebody wanted to reach out and introduce themselves, how might they go about doing that?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or feel free to send me an email directly to kduval@sffirecu.org. So feel free to reach out anytime.
That's fantastic. The audience knows we'll have the links down there for you so that everybody can just click and find you really easily. But again, it's been such a pleasure, and I do hope you come back and join us in the future.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, this is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.